You're listening to The Roots, a podcast from Minnesota AMA District 23 ARMCA. I'm your host, Jackie Reese. Let's dive deeper into what makes our district so great. This podcast was prepared by an independent contractor and may not be the views of the Board of Directors of District 23 ARMCA or any of their sponsors or affiliates. Welcome everybody to episode 15 of The Roots with Clay Olson. Clay, how's it going tonight?
Pretty good. How about yourself?
It's going pretty good. You recently switched teams over to Blue Crew from your Kawasaki. How do you like the Yamaha, and how do you like the 250 compared to the 450?
Good so far. I got to get new gear. The green don't really match everything. So yeah, everyone's used to seeing me on green. So it's kind of been a change. So far it's been way more fun. I was getting a little bit burnt out on the 450s. I've been on them since like '08 and rode a couple different bikes and decided I just wanted to try a 250. I've never owned one before, and just getting tired through a moto and stuff. I figured a 250 would be a good change because I like my two strokes. So rode the Cowie, heard a lot of good things about the Yamaha, and ended up going blue just to try something different. And so far it's been great. I absolutely love that bike. It's a lot of fun to ride.
Cool. Yeah, that's cool to hear. I was walking up to the line at Millville and I literally didn't even recognize you. Like, I was like, who is this? Like, who's this guy on the Yamaha? So used to you on Cowie. So good for you for changing it up, right? Like, I feel like it's pretty easy for people to just get stuck in a rut of what they like.
Yeah, variety is the spice of life. It's I felt like a broken record this weekend because a lot of people are like asking me, and I felt like a 250 salesman. But it's just like I've been on the 450 so long, and the new 250s are so good, and like I can't believe how much power like this bike has compared to any of the ones I've ridden before. And it's fun. Like it made it a little bit different. You got to attack the track different. I don't get as tired. I can, for not being in great shape, I can ride, longer into the motos. So been a good change. I'm having a blast.
Cool. Yeah, that's cool to hear. So I want to, of course, get into PDR Performance and how you got to that point in your life. But where did it all begin for you? Like, how did you get into motorcycling to begin with?
I'll start as a kid with my dad. As soon as I was 4 and could ride a pedal bike, the P-Dub came and we were cutting laps in the backyard. And we had a real local track by us that Dad would bring me to, probably once a week. And then we'd go riding on the weekends and racing when we were on 50s. And then kind of got out of racing, got kind of gun shy from the racing scene on 50s. So my dad just was like, all right, we just won't race. And we got spent every weekend pretty much riding and hanging out, riding during the week once in a while. And once I got to be about 12, I got a little bit more competitive, kind of wanted to try the racing thing again, and got into it and started racing Millville on a 125 and have been in it ever since.
Yeah, that's awesome. You talk about your dad a lot. With him being the pipe doctor, I feel like people probably knew who he was in the community. How did he impact your riding, and maybe his influence in the local moto scene impact your riding as well?
Yeah, he everybody knows him as the pipe doctor. So I was always like the kid that was 12 or 13 running through the pits and talking with everybody my dad talked to. So yeah, he was instrumental in for sure getting me into the sport. And he just the whole time growing up, like the only thing I can remember is it was always encouraging. Like there was never any pressure to ride or anything. And it was always just, we'll go have fun. And no matter how I did, it was just, always support. And it was something we just always did together and had fun. So yeah, but it was pretty instrumental. And then for sure him being the pipe doctor and stuff, he knows tons of people from years and years in the sport. So it made it fun at the track, just visiting with people and stuff.
Cool. Yeah, it's that's of course how I know him. For the longest
Yep.
time growing up, I didn't even know what his name was. So of course,
Yep.
that's cool to hear how he impacted your life. So you got on that 125, you started racing at Millville. At what point did you make it up to A class and really start seeing success in motocross racing?
It took a while. I mean, when we first started, I was we'd go to like Arkansas and some friends tracks, and I was on a KX 100 and got to the point where I could finally beat him. And it's like, oh, thought I was pretty hot stuff when I got on the 125, and I was like, all right, let's go racing. And that was kind of in the heyday. That would have been like 04, 05. And we realized quick that the goal was just to make it into the 40-man main at Millville, not necessarily trophy. So, it started out just that was the goal. Like, let's make the 40-man main. And then next couple of years came around and it was just, okay, let's try to get in the top 20. And then I forget exactly what year it was. I think it was 07. No, it was 2005. Something just clicked and I won a moto like out of nowhere, and was like, okay, well, that wasn't that hard. And then I started that whole year, had a kind of good title championship, and I won a 250C championship at Millville in 05, and then moved to B class after that. I'd already been in C a couple years, and that was a big jump. Obviously went into B class, rode that up until 2008. And I told Dad, I said, let's try for Loretta's. And he kind of, knowing now, he kind of laughed. He said, there's no way. And so we tried, went to Millville for the regional, got 3 good starts, and I ended up making it to Loretta's. 6th place. So just barely squeaked in, went down to Loretta's and got a rude awakening down there of what fast really is. And then when we got back from Loretta's, I went to A class in 2009 and have been racing A ever since. But it's kind of just been a build of track time, just putting laps in and racing and having fun on the weekend and trying to watch what the pros do and kind of implement it. Sat on the side of the track watching a lot of the old Minnesota legends for years and years, and you'd watch them. It's just like, okay, I just got to ride like that.
Yeah. So like, growing up, was that your goal to get to the A class, or was it just getting to that next step one after another?
The goal, like I could say, like when I was 16, 17, like, okay, we're gonna, like, I made it to Loretta's now. Now we're gonna go to A and I'm gonna get my pro card, and I'm not gonna be pro, but like we're gonna do the pro thing. And quickly got into 18, 19, 20 in A class and realized that you got to work and ride. And I never really got to the point where I grew a lot of interest in doing the pro thing heavily. So just kind of started hammering the state district stuff and having a ton of fun racing every weekend. And that's kind of when the PDR thing kicked in, because Mom and Dad weren't paying the bill and I still loved racing. So I had to find some way to do both.
Yeah, absolutely. We will get into how PDR started in a little bit here, but still looking at your personal racing career, is there a time that you were particularly proud of in your racing?
Making it to Loretta's was pretty cool the first time, and then the humbling of like how fast they were. Getting up to A class was pretty cool. The second time making it to Loretta's was probably like one of my peaks, just because I just came off a knee injury and I didn't really know where I was. And I got a couple good starts again at Millville and made it in. And it was just a really cool thing to like be going. It's like, okay, it's the fastest group. Like there's not an A class or anything above this. And to make it in 25A, I thought was pretty cool. And then when I got down there, my 3 motos my first year were a mess. And then when 25A, my first 2 motos, issues, crashes, things like that. And then the last moto, I had a crappy gate pick and I still pulled off like a 15th start and went through the whole moto and ended up, I think, 23rd. So it was my 6th moto at Loretta's. I finally like pulled together a moto, and it's like, I felt like it was like, top 10, even though I was like 25th, just because it's like I finished a moto and actually finished where I should have. So that was probably like the highlight of my racing career, which isn't much, but it was cool for me.
Yeah, for sure. Like, looking at some of the kids maybe you sponsor now, or just kids going to Loretta's in general, like, how can you compare your experience to what you've seen with them, and maybe some advice that you have for them going forward?
My experience was always no pressure. So I guess it comes like the first time I went to Loretta's, I never even thought I'd make it. So we went down there, it was literally an experience, so that was totally different because I wasn't racing with any pressure. And then going into the 25 plus year, I obviously had a full-time job. This wasn't going to be anything serious. So again, it was just, we're going to go down there, have an awesome time and race. And there wasn't any pressure on it. And I guess the biggest like advice I'd give to kids is this: if you can make it to that level, and even if you're 6th place and you just barely squeak in, like, don't go down there thinking you're going to be top 10 or top 5 and like set the world on fire. Like, you already made it. Like you are one of the top kids in the country to get down there. And it's such an honor to be able to race there if you do get to that level, and to just go down and have fun and enjoy it and don't put the pressure on it. It's a cool event. And I see a lot of people, some people just, they put so much on and they almost ruin the family experience and the racing memories that you can get out of it by over pressurizing something that frankly, it don't matter that much.
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of how my experience was too. Like, what kind of advice do you have just for getting over that sense of pressure, right? Because all you ever hear is, oh, did you make it to Loretta's? Are you going? Like, everyone's hyping the race, like you had mentioned. Like, how do you get over that in your head?
Yeah, for me, it was more my goals to make, it's like next year I'll try again. It's like the goal and the pressure is on the staging line. For us amateurs, that is the mecca, is to make it to the amateur national. And for me, all of the pressure comes down at the regionals, like getting that guaranteed spot. And once I get down to the ranch, it's like, I know there's going to be like no matter what, you want to do good. And for me, it was more switching the mentality of, okay, I'm racing the fastest guys in the country in this class, like right now. So whether I'm in 30th or 10th, enjoy the experience and enjoy the race and battle really hard. Because even this kid that, might be back in 32nd, that you don't know his name or anything, somewhere he wins a ton of races. So you're racing kids that have won tons and tons of races and are really, really good riders. So just because you're battling for 27th or, some spot doesn't mean you're not accomplishing something out there.
Yeah, that's cool to hear. The change in perspective, just doing it on your own is so important.
Yeah, for sure.
Looking back, maybe even farther than your time at Loretta's, is there a memory or a period of time riding that's just particularly nostalgic for you, where you're like, oh yeah, those were good times, those were the good old days? Like, do you have memories like that?
Probably a lot of it with my dad early on. I mean, even I'd say before we got into the racing, we kind of did the 50 thing, and my memories from 50s were like cartwheeling my bike and crashing with Justin Kraft and just like a mess. Like it was stressful. And the little bit I remember of it, it never went good. Like I just had a horrible experience racing on 50s. So when we got out of it, I went to a 65 and I was just kind of gun shy on it. My dad bought me a TTR 125 trail bike because I was a little bit tall for my age. And I started riding that and I got a bunch of confidence. And I remember finally like almost being able to keep up with them. And like just all those weekends spent with him and seeing that progression of getting faster, but not on the racing scene, and like all the just fun camping weekends and stuff is probably like my favorite memories of it. And then getting into the racing, obviously the big milestones, winning your first race. My grandpa was actually there the first time I won a moto. So like, that was really cool. Getting a ticket to Loretta's like that one moment where it's like, you cross the finish line and you did it. Like you can't beat it. Like those are really cool moments for sure.
Yeah. That's cool to hear that you started out just like everybody else and chose a path for yourself, and now here you are, very successful with PDR Performance. So that's where I'd like to go next with this. How did that all come up? You said you had to start paying the bills somehow, so it became PDR Performance, I guess.
Yeah, I've been, since I was young. I mean, my dad with the pipe doctor and stuff, he was in the garage all the time, and I wanted to be where dad was, so I had to be in the garage. And he'd have me, I'd grab stuff and just weld or be on the lathe or machine center. I'd be machining just anything to just get my hands on stuff. So from the time I was 8 years old or 7 years old and up, it's like you're just in the garage with dad all the time working on stuff. So at a young age, we do our top ends and stuff like that, and we'd work on all that together. And when something needed to be done on the bike, we worked on all that. So I'd been working on my own stuff forever. I mean, as long as I could remember. And got to a point where I needed, was going back and forth on some suspension stuff. And my dad actually, we needed fork seals in his bike. And he was like, I'm not going to pay to get it done. I'll just do it myself. I was, and I'm probably 19, I think, before I started PDR. And I was like, you can't just do it yourself. Like you got to, bring it in or something. He's like, no, I can figure this out. So, he goes through and literally makes the seal driver that I use is still the original one that my dad made to do like his own forks the first time to put seals in. So he did it, got them all back together, and I came in the garage. He's like, "Oh, they're all done." I was like, "You figured out it? Like you did it?" He goes, "Yeah, it wasn't that bad." I was like, "Oh, all right." Well, so then piqued my interest. So then I started getting into it more and reading up in it. And then I did, ended up doing my own stuff, and kind of seeing how everything worked. And then it almost became like it's kind of a black art, I guess, the suspension stuff. Like a lot of people are scared of it. And there's a decent amount of stuff going on, especially when you get deep into tuning. But once I kind of cracked into it and started getting my head wrapped around it, it turned into like an obsession. Like I just wanted to learn like more and more. And okay, why does this work this way? And why does this do this way? And so I started doing my own stuff, some friends stuff, and then started doing it for money on the side, just because I was like, all right, this will help pay for racing. And that was about a few months of doing that, and then officially started PDR Performance kind of as a side thing, and it just snowballed from there.
Wow. So you're affiliated with Race Tech now. Did you ever do any of their schools? And how did that partnership come about for you?
Yep, started, Race Tech is a cool company because they got a product that you can do yourself. If you're able to get in there and do your valving and whatnot, they offer a product that a guy can learn how to do that. So started with them, and then they had some classes, and I found those online, and I could only afford to do the first two. I couldn't do the last week. So I just went out there for 3 days, and they went over some basics, and the seminar was, useful. And then I started building a relationship with Chris Reisenberg and doing some stuff with them. They set me up as, just a kind of a garage dealer, and started doing some more stuff. And then that's what kind of introduced me to actually doing the valving and the tuning and, troubleshooting and stuff like that. And then got deeper involved with them, and we started doing enough business that Chris actually approached me, and he's like, "Hey, I think this would work out good. Come out, finish up the classes, and let's turn you into a center." We've had a lot of good feedback and whatnot. So, and then that's about that same point is when Rob Brown and a couple other guys were taking over the R&D at Race Tech. So at the same point I kind of got involved. Race Tech had an entire team that was basically redesigning the entire product line back in the, early 2010, 12 area. So as I was doing that, I learned a lot from those guys, and then the product was just, phenomenal, and we were able to gain a lot from that and a lot of knowledge through those guys. So yeah, it's been a really, really good partnership. And out that the suspension and the engine side, just a great business model for us. We can do all the trackside support and everything, and they take care of the endless hours of tuning to get us a base setting that works really good right off the bat.
Cool. Yeah, that's really cool to hear. At what point did you decide to move into the engine performance side of things, and B, build that giant shop at your house?
The engines, I've always done motors, and I actually did them all myself for a long time, case splits and all that stuff. So I've always done engines and suspension. I actually did engines before I even touched suspension stuff. So engines has always been pretty natural. And as the business grew, I was out of my parents' house, and then my first shop I built was just a 2-stall garage. We set up really nice, and it blew up in about 2 years, 3 years, way more than I could do. So I was like, okay, shut the business down, or I need help. And I had known Zach Emke for a while, and he's the only guy I kind of trusted, where it's like, okay, I know he's really good, and I know his quality level. So I called him up. I was like, dude, I am overwhelmed. I was like, if you want to take this ride with me, we can give it a shot. I said, I don't know how long I can pay you or how long this is going to go, but I said, I need help, and I got a lot of stuff. So Zach came on board with a good background suspension, and he loved doing motors. And I was getting to the point where I didn't like doing motors anymore. I could do them, but like I didn't really like them. So Zach is the motor guru. He's just phenomenal with engine building. So he's like, well, I love building motors. I was like, perfect. You're the engine guy. So he does a lot of suspension stuff. And then the engine work, we started pushing a lot harder into just with him on board. we were able time wise to take it on. And then he's got, you know, good background in performance work. We got a dyno, started doing more dynoing and performance work and rebuilds. And it all came together pretty good of being able to do service and performance on the engines and the suspension.
Cool. Yeah. Full service package you got there. So,
Yep.
I'm sure as all this growth is happening for you, there's a lot changing in your life. You know, at the track too. How did that change your experience when you're going to the track? Like, did you ride less? Did you talk to more people? How did that all change for you?
Didn't ride less. It's kind of, everyone watches us kind of every weekend, especially, you know, I mean, even now we're at the track a lot, but the first 5 years were, I mean, we almost never missed a weekend. Me and Trish, and bless her heart, she is phenomenal. She's the only reason I'm still in this thing, because she puts up with it. So it was go to the track because I wanted to race, I wanted to ride, and this was the business that afforded us to be able to do that, because I'm still working, you know, a regular job too. I got a really good other career on top of this, and you know, so her support and being able to do this at night on the weekends was big. And yes, the relationship with the track and stuff has changed. It's been a little bit challenging, especially as we've gotten older and stuff. It's just it's a lot of work. You're riding and you're changing tires all day and stuff, but it's just kind of what I know now. So try to get a couple more weekends off here and there when we can, but for the most part, it's good. We enjoy it. We have fun with it.
Cool. You sponsor a lot of kids around here. How did you get into that portion of your business, looking to help people out? How do you pick those kids? Just the whole sponsorship partnership thing in general.
Yeah, a lot of the sponsorships. So I got a, you know, handful of pretty much all my rider, well, not pretty much all of my rider support that I do at this point. When I first started, you know, I did a couple, you know, deals with people and this and that kind of cold, and frankly, they never worked out ever. And I never got much back for it. And it's, you know, people, you get a discount and it's like, well, yeah, I didn't make anything on it, but you got time involved in it too, you know. So the sponsorship thing can be a lot harder than some people think, especially as you start doing more of it and whatnot. So we pretty much changed our whole sponsorship program, that all of our sponsored and supported riders are all coming from existing customers. So everybody that comes in new, you kind of got, you know, it is what it is to start, you know, business and start doing stuff with us. And then as we get, you know, ability to, you know, do more discounts or some free stuff here and there, it all comes from within people that have supported us all those years as it comes up. And then we also do rider support for Race Tech. So if you send in, you get a deal with Race Tech, us being their main center up here. If you get a sponsorship through Race Tech, you pay the same price in my shop as you would at Race Tech. So if anybody, you know, is looking for a deal or a sponsorship right off the bat, if you can work with Checkers and get something set up with Race Tech, that is honored through our shop as well. So in-house sponsorships directly through PDR are based 100% on if you're giving back to us, and if you're, you know, an existing customer. I just feel like it's fair to give back to the people that, you know, kind of helped you get where you were. And then, you know, any existing or kind of new customers coming in, we do a lot of work for Race Tech support riders as well.
Cool. That's cool that Race Tech partnership branches even farther than what people probably would have expected.
Yep.
So even more recently, PDR has been expanding into bike distributions, the PDR Moto Academy, and working with District 23 ARMCA itself. What all has been changing more recently for you?
Yeah, the biggest change in the last probably year, especially with COVID, we got into the sales side of the business a little bit more. So aside from being just a service-based business, we got into selling the intense mountain bikes, which again came from kind of, I wanted to get a mountain bike, and I looked up Intense because they were a moto related company, and there was nowhere I could even find a bike in Minnesota to look at if I wanted to buy one. So reached out to them and worked out. I was one of their top, you know, 15 dealers in the country last year in 2020. So it was a great partnership with them. They have awesome bikes, and just worked out that it fit our portfolio good because they're kind of a moto based company. Worked with Cobra down at Loretta's in 2020, talked to them, and they ended up taking us on board end of August. And that, you know, of course, with the mini market being crazy, that's gone really good. Learning curve to all of it. You know, the bike sales are easy, and then the just figuring out what to stock, because it's such a more sales focused business versus what we had done before. Trailer stuff's easy. You got tires, you got tubes, and some levers and stuff, and you can pretty much make a weekend work. With the Cobra thing, it's been learning, okay, what do people need? What are the onesie twosie things that you might only need twice a year, but people want you to have at the shop? So learning how to support the bikes and what we need and the quantities and stuff like that has been a learning curve, but we're catching on, and it's been fun. It's been a nice expansion.
Cool. Yeah. I guess you're always just taking on new projects.
Yeah, a little bit. And then the Moto Academy, that actually started last year at Cedar Lake Arena. I kept having people ask me, like, will you do private lessons? Will you do classes? And Trisha wasn't all that pumped about it, that I took something else on, considering we were so busy and we couldn't keep up with what we were doing. Then I was like, oh, let's do dirt bike classes on top of this. But it worked out pretty good. We did some Fridays at Cedar Lake, and the big thing that I saw is there was a big gap that I see in kids of, you got all these training programs and stuff, but nothing's tailored that I've seen for the masses of the basics. Like I still have got people that don't know that they need to oil their air filters, so like a Moto Academy or Moto school for all these new people and the 65s, 85s, and 50s coming in, or even some big bikes, and going, okay, this is how the sport works. Like, here's the basic maintenance you need to do. Here's how you ride the bike. You need to stand here. You need to sit here. This is why you need to stand and sit here, and trying to connect, not just this is how you ride and this is how you go faster, but this is why you ride this way. And this is, and I just think it's a better way to learn, that it connects, okay, the why, but behind the what you're doing. So that's kind of what we tried to focus the Moto Academy on, was more just general skills in the mass public of going, okay, let's build better, safer riders. And then that, like with me, I didn't do a lot of training, but I just naturally got faster, to where I'm a pretty decent rider now. And if I would have known the stuff I know now, that I still have bad habits, it's like, man, if I would have known this at 10 and had someone pounded into my head that I have to do these things, it would have made it so much easier and, safer as I got faster. So that's kind of what the idea was behind the Moto Academy, was just something fun kind of on the side to do, and something to help keep people in the sport longer.
That's cool. Yeah, I didn't realize that you guys had brought the maintenance aspect of things into it. Yep. Like, what are the most common questions that people have with that?
Most of the people got an idea of it, but a lot of people don't realize like how often you should be changing like your oil on a 4-stroke, or that, yeah, the manual says you can go 5 hours, but realistically, like, the oil is getting pretty shot by then, and the air filter is not at every 4-hour thing. It's an every single ride type maintenance item. Clutches and top ends and tires, like, I go over it kind of in the class, that just keep the bike running good and keep good fuel in it. And if you can afford a pipe and new tires, like, perfect. But if you're, racing on a budget, the exhaust is fine. Like, leave the pipe and make sure you have good tires on it. Like, it'll have a, brand new graphics, brand new plastic, all tricked out, and the tires will have knobs ripping off of them. And it's like, that's your main contact to the ground. So kind of tying that, or sharing that with people of kind of like my perspective on, what you should be watching if you want to be successful in the sport. Like, all the other stuff's good, but here's like the basics that'll really, from a rider's standpoint, I know this will make a difference.
Cool. So have you seen more PDR customers come to the academy, or more people from the academy become PDR, like suspension and engine customers?
At first, I thought it'd be a lot of PDR coming into it, just because of the relationship that we built and stuff. And it actually was kind of opposite. It worked out really good, that we got a ton of, people that started working with us there, that then we would rebuild their suspension or something like that. So a little bit of both, but definitely met a lot of really nice families and nice people getting into the sport, that, a lot of them, that was their first year or first couple years at Cedar Lake or something, and their kids were brand new at it. And to kind of get them into the sport and then retain them as a customer, down the road, was cool. But yeah, definitely pulled some customers out of it as well.
Nice. That's cool to hear. Um, Talk a little bit about how you support District 23 ARMCA. I'm sure, people see the PDR logos on things. How have you helped the district in the past?
Do sponsorship, we'll do a lot of product for the banquets at the end of the year, and then really trying to drive participation more than anything of, Cedar Lake is, one thing we do with the sandbox over there is, okay, you race here, like, where do you do in the summer? There's more of this outside, like come over, race, race Staples, race Mora, go to Millville, or there'll be, customers or people that'll maybe only race one or two tracks. And we hit a lot of, we travel a ton, we'll go Brookston, Staples, Millville, Mora, hit all of them. So being able to hit all these different locations, you kind of see different groups of people. And I think it helps the district. And I think it would overall help if more of these people move to different spots, because it's like I'll go down, like Millville, last couple times we went here at the end of the year, like it was a blast, like we had a ton of fun, and there's a bunch of faces there that I'll never see at Cambridge. It's like, and if they went up there, it's like, man, Cambridge, like pretty awesome setup up there, and they'll talk to Cambridge people, and it's like they'll never go as far north as Brookston or Staples. It's like, well, this kind of sandy, like if you guys went up north, like good promoters up there too, and the track is, the tracks are awesome. So there's more than just like one good track, and to try to help people move around, and with us hitting so many different tracks, and kind of trying to pull people around and see different things, I think helps. And then trying to do some end of year stuff that we can.
Yeah. Why do you think people don't move around and don't try different tracks in the state, compared to staying in where they feel comfortable?
Honestly, I think it's just people are creatures of habit. I mean, you go to Mora, and you know your people there. You got your people that you hang out with at Burn Benders, and you love the track, and you have a really good time there. And you have other weekends that you're busy, so you're not racing every weekend. So you kind of just stick with the same program, and it's fine for a year or two, but I think people kind of burn out. You get the first, you do a few years, and it's kind of like, well, we've already done this for 3 seasons. And then some of them get out of the sport, and some of them maybe move around a little bit. But I was guilty. When I was younger, all we did was Millville. We literally never went anywhere else. We did the 12 Millville series, and that was it. For years and years, I never saw any other tracks. And once I started doing this on my own, and I was 18 and could drive, me and Trish started going, okay, let's go out, especially with the business, we started going up to Staples and Little Falls. And then finally I got up to, Echo Valley, Brookston, and I started seeing these other tracks, and it was like, holy cow, like these are fun. Like there's really good places to ride around here that I've been doing this for years, and it was getting it gets tedious. It's the same thing. And it's like, man, it really changes it up when you hit these different tracks. And, so it's like to have D23, I wish the state series, there was a way to, compact that or make it a bigger deal. I did state championship thing a few years in a row and won it, and I thought it was cool. And there's so many people doing it. It'd be cool to have more people move around and see. And I think it's good for the health of the sport for people to see that different stuff, because I think it keeps them more interested.
Yeah, totally. And I think the featured events for motocross have definitely been a step in the right direction for trying to get people to go to those different tracks and get out of their comfort zone a little bit.
Oh, 100%. The features have been phenomenal. So it's one of the best things I think ARMCA did in a number of years was stick to that features program. It'd be cool to have more of those. You go to the feature, and everything you hear at the end of a feature is that was so awesome, having 400, 500 people. Like, why can't it be like this every weekend? And people just can't do it every weekend. It's tough. So to at least have that little bit every year, that we can all get together and just say, okay, we're going to, at the end of the year, have these big events and, all race and stuff. The features are awesome. We really enjoy them.
Cool. Yeah. I'm glad to hear that you like them as well.
Yep.
More so you personally, and maybe Trisha as well, why do you guys continue to race in District 23 ARMCA and support it as a whole?
It's our backyard, and that's where, we kind of built, Trisha actually is full-time PDR now. She had a job, for years before this, and she's been full-time at this for a year. So not only do we love the people and the promoters and, kind of what D23 offers, but it's kind of family at this point now. We've been doing it so long and so hard for so many years, being at the track so much that it's just kind of home for us. Get to, we'll go down to Iowa and stuff every once in a while, and it's fun, but it's not the same as the people around here, and the relationships and stuff you build. So
yeah, I definitely feel that as well, just that strong sense of community
yeah,
here in
for sure.
Minnesota. So we have some listener questions for you.
Oh boy.
The first one is from Angie, and she asks, why is your wife so cool and cute?
She's probably cool because she hangs out with me so much.
Oh.
And why is she so cute? I don't know. I don't know why she's with me and she's so cute, but I guess I lucked out on that side. And I don't know. I guess my coolness must have rubbed off. No, she's awesome. She puts up with a lot. So
yeah. So my follow-up question to that is, how did you actually meet Trisha?
I met her in high school. So I was a senior and she was a sophomore, and we were both had a gym class together. So we met in school, just kind of, checking each other out, and, then kind of talking, flirting in the classrooms, and we had a couple mutual friends. So then we ended up getting each other's number through that and hanging out. And we first, kind of started texting back and forth, and, oh yeah, what do you do for fun, and this and that. And I messaged her and I was like, well, I race motocross and da da da. And I was like, well, what do you do? And she goes, oh, I drag race. And I remember, like, I got that text. I was like, oh, this will work out good. Like, oh, okay. Like, she gets it. Like, she races. So I was like, yeah, cool. Finally a girl that like does stuff. So went to some drag race stuff with her. And then she got she actually grew out of her drag car. She was supposed to go to a big car, and they took a year off. Well, of course, the year off, I decided, well, here, get on a dirt bike and try my 450. So she got on that, tried that a couple times, and I was like, okay, I need a dirt bike. So it's been wide open ever since, as far as, her learning how to ride and all that. So we did that together, and that's pretty much how we met and got to where we are now.
Nice. Yeah, that's pretty crazy. I love that. Just, oh, I guess this will work.
Yeah, it's like, oh, awesome. She's cute and she races drag races. Like, this is perfect.
Brent Hupert asks, when are you going to try a hill climb? Valley Springs Motorcycle Club invites you.
When am I going to try hill climb? If there was a weekend and somebody had a bike, I would totally do hill climb. I've always thought those guys are gnarly, and you go to Millville and stuff, and just laying into it up a hill is probably one of the funnest parts of the track. So if someone reaches out and we got a free weekend and you got a bike for me, I will come try hill climb. That would be awesome.
Yeah, it's definitely on my list of things to try too. It looks so cool.
Yes.
And when we talked with Logan Sapala in his episode of The Roots, he totally compared it to the start of a motocross race. Like, it's 10 seconds or 15 or 20 or however long, however big the hill is, just as fast as you can go up the hill. And I think that sounds like a heck of a time.
That's yes. Yeah. I've watched plenty of hill climb videos, and yes, it would be very, very fun to try sometime.
All right, last listener question for you from Basic Motoco. They asked, do you have any suspension or general setup tips?
Suspension or general setup tips? Set your sag first. So a lot of people don't do that. So get your sag set. And in general, when I start tuning a bike or working on it, set your sag and just go out and ride it, and don't worry about your clickers. Just worry about bike balance. Is the back end low? Is the back end high? Is the front end low or high? Is it moving up and down equally? Like, does it feel balanced for you? And then from there, then you can start playing with your clickers front and back. And frankly, just trying it. I get a lot of people that, they just don't play with their clickers, so write down where you're at and take your screwdriver and put your forks 8 clicks stiffer, 8 clicks softer, and go try 2 laps and see if you can feel, the difference. It's normally not, in my experience, as I've gotten to be a lot better test rider over the years, A lot of people in suspension tuning look for like this huge change, or like, you know, the bike's going to totally react different. And it's not, it's, you know, it kind of massages the bike in certain areas, you know, here and there. So you're not looking for huge, massive changes. You're just looking for small incremental improvements. So if you need big changes, you're going to need to make big changes, you know, springs or valving, you know, clickers are going to take you where you're at and just make everything a little bit better and kind of push it around a little bit. So get your sag set, work on your fork height and your sag to get everything balanced, and then play with your clickers and learn what they do. You can learn a ton spending 20 minutes at the track just turning clickers.
Yeah, and one resource that I go to all the time is the troubleshooting page on the Racetech website. Like, I just find that so helpful, just for myself at the track. Like, oh yeah, this does this and that does that, kind of a thing.
Yeah, for sure, that helps a lot. You know, there's awesome resources online. Chris Kiefer, I listened to a lot of his stuff. He's always got a lot of good advice too. You know, and there's tuners at the track. I mean, if I'm not at the track, you know, you got Bruce at Beeline, you're gonna have Mike at KB5, Clayton at Fine Tune. You know, I work on a lot of their stuff and help their customers out if they need it. And I'm sure they've turned clickers on plenty of my guys' stuff. So if you have questions, that's, you know, all of us tuners spend a lot of time at the track so that we can help you and answer questions. So reaching out to somebody you see a lot, and you know, don't be afraid to work with somebody, because it can make a big difference on the bike for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So my last question for you as we round out this podcast, what does your future look like for you personally and for PDR Performance?
Oh, I have a hard time figuring out what I'm doing next week. So the future is going to be kind of more of the same, staying busy, pushing forward, growing the business, learning more about the bikes to make them even better. We've got, you know, Zach still on board. Trisha started about just with the growth of the business. She's helped a lot with getting stuff organized and stuff. And we've got Cooper Abbott working with me, doing training and learning to keep my shop caught up a little bit more. So that's kind of a new and expanding thing. And then we also got Mullet Boy Cameron Ford is in a couple days a week sorting shims and putting bikes together and doing some stuff on the side. So we got kind of a small youthful team that we're starting to work on growing. So if the business keeps growing, we can be prepared for that. And in the future, it's just going to be more track time and more time behind the shop bench.
Right on. Well, thank you so much for joining me on the Roots, Clay. It's been a pleasure.
Yep, you bet. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. And thank you everybody else for tuning into this episode. If you haven't already, check out our website for those Member of the Week articles. They're a great way to check out other members in our district in addition to this podcast. So if you haven't already, head over to armca.org and check out those. And if you just really enjoy the Roots, we will see you again in 2 Mondays. Thanks for joining us. Catch us every other Monday wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on our YouTube page.